On this week's episode of Bogeys to Birdies, we're going to focus on approaching and putting. The better you can approach, the less you have to putt. So let's go figure it out.
There's a saying in disc golf that goes like this: you throw for show, but you putt for dough. This means that throwing far is fun, but putting is what makes or breaks a win for you. Since putting is so essential, one thing that makes putts easier is having a good approach game. Approaching is the shot where you're not necessarily trying to put it in the basket, but instead put it as close to the pin, leaving yourself with an easy putt. So today we went to play a casual round and not worry about score, but instead take some of the field work that we have done and put it to the test. After this tee shot on hole 4, Noah was left with a longer approach. On his initial attempt, he didn't swing it out wide enough to the right, which put him a little short and left of the basket. After talking to him about walking up to the shot at a different angle, he throws the same disc again, but this time a little bit wider, and as you can see, his second shot was a lot closer to the basket. He ends up making both putts, but he had to work a lot harder from one, and those are not always guaranteed makes. Some approaches are very easy and straightforward, but sometimes you can put yourself in a tricky situation, making it a lot harder and bringing in more factors. The wind is a big factor, as exposing the bottom of the disc allows it to get taken away further in one direction than you would want it to. If you can, you always want to be throwing a disc that fades towards whichever way the wind is blowing. Another factor is the slope of the ground. If you hit the ground on too steep of an angle, the disc will stand up and roll away, and if there is out of bounds near the basket, you want to avoid that at all costs. Matching the hillside or throwing into the hill is a great way to negate the rollaway potential. There are also a separate category of discs that tend to work better when trying to throw approaches. This category is usually labeled as the overstable approach disc. You notice the orange disc labeled zone that Noah throws a lot on these approaches, and that's because it has a reliable and predictable flight pattern that he can get used to throwing. These discs are usually on the slower side in the 3 to 4 speed range, which helps further limit any ground play. The higher speed you throw, the more ground play you will get. Sometimes a long jump putt, which is when you put more momentum behind a putting motion, can be used as an attempt to make the putt while also staying close to the basket. Other times you won't even need to approach the basket, as you throw good enough to where you are putting after your tee shot. Still, having a good approach game can help you scramble when you put yourself in the non-ideal spot. However, that will do it for this week's episode of Bogeys to Birdies. Make sure you tune in next week for more content.